Hello, everybody. Hope everybody is well. I guess, can we start with, you want to just quickly talk about the fish library thing? My understanding, Max, you want to just reiterate what you just said to us a minute ago, please, about fish?
Sure. Are we on? Or people can?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Yeah, we received a referral from the planning board directed to the conservation board regarding requirements for a wetlands permit for the Desmond Fish Library project. I think unknowing to us, they were not also concurrently going to the planning board during the time that they came before the conservation board to file for an application. So we had conditionally approved a wetlands permit based on the application packets that we had received a few months ago, potentially in November. And now that they're in front of the planning board, I believe that Ron had reached out to us just to ensure that we had the opportunity to review and comment and or enforce or administer a permit for the project. So I'm going to reach back out to the planning board and just kind of catch them up to speed on where we stand. And we should be good to go from there. Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you, Max. Riverview, Glenn had requested that we push him to the end of the meeting because he's got some prior commitment that may push him a little late.
Marquis is on, so.
Is he? Glenn's in. All right, well, let's,
Say that.
if Glenn's ready, let's let him come in.
Yep, I just let him in. Let's see. Glenn, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. I think we left the last meeting pretty much with most issues resolved, and you were going to wait until you heard from Max with regard to what we discussed. So I don't have a lot to add. I don't know where Max is, but I'm hoping that we've solved the issues that we talked about and can move forward.
Well, what I relayed to Max was, as best I could, the discussions we had at the meeting and the questions that I had and we had, that we wanted Max's input for a few reasons. The mitigation plan, if I remember right, in the back.
Yeah.
I had questions. I'm sorry, Andy, go ahead. You want?
Yeah, the planting, mitigate the planting, what we were going to do with that small pocket wetland back there.
Yeah. And then a continued discussion about the impervious versus pervious of the whole, paving area, whatever we want to call it. I know that I'm still concerned that, Glenn, my apologies. I mean, I know you addressed it. You answered the question. You said it is what we are putting down, the riprap, or not riprap, the crushed up asphalt, essentially.
I think it was Andy who said that his driveway was tailings and that
Tailings,
he's
yeah.
the one that said that it is impervious from a technical point of view, but I think Andy weighed in on that with particular experience.
Agreed.
Yeah, it is. You wouldn't think it's impervious, but that's the one problem I have on my driveway is because it is impervious, that it just causes water to cascade down.
Right.
So,
I have the same problem.
yeah,
Exactly the same problem.
there's no ideal for this. And I think our biggest concern, other than getting it right, and I think Glenn and his people have pretty much gotten it right, is if there is going to be any leakage of oil or other petroleum-based fluids, what's the best way to handle it? Should there be a certain part of the yard where any type of work that's done, it's done there towards the front?
Right. Yep. Agreed.
Make something simple rather than, requiring somebody to pave a whole area, which I don't think really does anybody any good.
I agree with you, Andy. I mean, I really, my feeling is that if it's impervious, it's a good thing. And if we can sort of isolate the areas where the leaking transmissions and rear ends and hydraulic lines, if we can somehow require that to be in one spot. It's not scattered all over the surface. And that spot is particularly well controlled with that. Glenn, what is the thing called? The catch basin up at the end with the filtration and everything at the north end?
It's an oil separator.
The oil separator. So we were questioning, we wanted to see some sort of a maintenance program for it, a better understanding of what the filtration was in it. Is it actually just a box with, you know, like a septic tank where it's got a barrier in it where?
Yeah,
the
it's
oil-
a barrier. It's a barrier. It's basically a barrier. Yes.
So I think the question, Max, can you remind me exactly, please, what some of the things we talked about 4 things, if I recall.
Yeah, I mean, based on the meeting prior to December, I believe that we had discussed creating an impervious surface that was sloped to some sort of a filtration system that could be maintained.
Yep.
Potentially curbing or delineating the boundary of the parking area in a more permanent way with fencing or some sort of other material that we agreed upon.
Yep.
And then I believe also tied in with this to rectify the violation was to put in a maintenance and monitoring plan for the any sort of wetland restoration or wetland improvement work that would be done to, you know, further rectify the violation that the applicant has in front of them right now. I think those were the main items. What, you know, where we land and coming to some sort of a happy medium with all those things. You know, I would defer to the board in terms of what their decision would be on all of that. But those were the items that we discussed and we had conveyed to the planning board as well.
Okay. I mean, I think Glenn, we kind of dealt with the curbing idea with Glenn had those big
Yes.
concrete blocks. So we were all good with that. He's contained it. And I think the impervious, we're accepting that the impervious is impervious and it's all draining towards that grease trap. The maintenance, we had, MJ, you had brought up the Appalachian markets
Yes.
agreement. We thought
Yeah.
we would address, look at that and see if we can bring that into this.
Glenn, you were gonna look back in your files because I think you represented.
We did, and you're correct. I didn't do that, but I do remember that I said I would do it. I will do it.
Great, thanks.
And then the only thing that I had said, and Glenn, you addressed it, was that everything was draining to that very north corner. And it just didn't seem to me like that was the most efficient way to collect it all. But you said if we collect it in the middle where basically you're letting whatever pollutants there are, they're going to the center instead of to the edges.
Yeah, and
Freezing problem.
yeah, I did say that, and that is a potential problem. But then Margaret McManus, our engineer, was on the call, and if you recall, she piped in that we also had a grade problem to get the water in, to get enough flow of the water. If we put a pipe under the pavement and in the middle, we'd have too long a pipe to have positive flow towards the outfall.
Right, I recall.
So that's why it ended up in the corner. I think all of what you said is a correct review of what we talked about. I would add that we did have a requirement on the plan to work with Max to develop the plan behind. I'm pointing at the map, so it's like you can see it. But to the west of the parking lot, there's the wetlands that has been invaded and needs to be restored. And we had suggested a requirement to work with Max to develop a particular plan with regard to that restoration.
Right. So
My only hesitation about moving forward with that outside of the board would be that it's going to be a multi-year commitment, and I don't know how, unless we pass some sort of a resolution here, it's going to be a multi-year financial commitment to the applicant, and you know, I don't want to walk away, you know, from this process before we can make that assurance that happens. Just, you know, between Glenn and I, or whoever I'd be dealing with from your office, Glenn.
Yep.
Makes
Please
sense.
deal with me for a little while longer, but not much.
You
Yeah.
lucky dog. What do you guys all think? Andy?
I mean, I think we're almost there.
Yep.
So, you know, to me, the two things that are missing right now is, I don't know if we want to call it restoration, mitigation to the pocket wetland, which is not a big deal, but will take several years to maintain it. And that sort of ties into a maintenance agreement, because the maintenance agreement would cover that, as well as the filtration for where the petroleum products might leach to.
Good. MJ? Any thoughts?
What Andy said.
Yep, here. Bob, you have anything to add?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yep. So I mean, you guys did a great job putting that together, and Glenn as well. I mean, his team did a nice job there. I'm happy with it. I agree with the maintenance program. The only thing I think might be missing is if there's a spill, like, is there some type of mitigation program? Obviously, if there's a bigger spill than just something that the catch basin could handle. I mean, I know obviously DEC has some guidance and things like that, but I don't know if there's procedures we could put in place.
Well, there are, and I don't think it would be any problem. There are spill kits that you know, they come in a big barrel, and you keep them on site, or you keep them on your truck, or you keep them wherever they are, and they come in various sizes. And we certainly could put a couple on site, you know, specify a couple on site, a spill kit there. You know, it's assuming that we don't have to use them. They're going to be fine until you use. They're going to be fine until you use them, and then you replace them. And at the risk of, I don't have any problem with the maintenance agreement at all. I'll get that out. And I think what we could do is make a deposit that would fund Max's annual inspection or semi-annual inspection for, say, 5 years or something like that.
Yes, that sounds good. 5 years feels like not enough, honestly, but I would say if we can add the spill kits as a written requirement.
Fine. I don't see that as a problem at all.
Crystal, do you want to add anything?
No, I'm fine, as long as, you know, a restoration plan is being worked out. And forgive me if we've already went over this. Was there any sampling to see if there was any leakage over the years?
You didn't need to do any sampling.
Okay. So, no, I don't have anything further.
No, it's a good question, Crystal. It was brought up by others as well. Jan, do you want to throw anything in here?
No, sorry, I joined late, but I think this sounds right.
Okay, so our next step, I'm not sure what this one is. I believe this is just a planning board referral. So Max,
No, we need a wetlands permit.
you want to chime in on that one? Because you had very specific questions about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, we can make the permit conditional on the items that we have concerns about. But like I said, I think the board should take a look at the maintenance agreement before maybe we make a final decision. We've run into these situations before with other applicants where this is the piece that's lacking, and that can get thrown to the wayside pretty easily, especially once this process has kind of carried itself out.
Right. I mean, honestly, Glenn, what we feel happens is that the planning board says, oh, okay, the wetlands board was fine with it. We're going to issue the permit. We're gone. And then it comes back to us and we say, okay, we're ready to, you want to issue the permit, but we needed those 3 contingencies fulfilled. And the applicant turns around and says, well, we've already got approval from the planning board. What are you talking about? So I know with all due respect, the question was asked at the last meeting if we can get the maintenance plan and all that information. So maybe
You're right. I said that. I agreed with that before. We're not back in the old days when you just recommended to the planning board how to deal with it. You actually have a permitting authority here. And that permitting authority is just as important in its own sphere as the planning department's decision. So if you require a maintenance agreement, and if you require a funding of your inspection fees for some period of years, that's enforceable under your permit. So
Understood.
I certainly can have I can and will have a maintenance agreement for you to look at, and I'll share it with Max before I turn it in.
All right.
And if we can have your direction to Max to prepare a resolution, or however you do it, to prepare a resolution to be considered at your next meeting. I think we've had a successful meeting tonight and a successful.
I would agree, Glenn, and I'm all good with that. Max, can you follow through on that end?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right.
If you even want to submit, yeah, if you want to submit it, if you want to go back and forth in terms of idea sharing regarding the plan, I'm fine with doing that. And then as long as we can submit it before the next meeting, so the rest of the board can take a look at it, that's more comfortable in my mind.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate your patience. I didn't mean to beat this one to death, but I just felt like.
That's fine. I'm not, it's fine.
All right. Very good. Thank you, sir.
Okay, we're finished, and I'll say good night.
Yes, sir. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, all.
I think next we have Chloe. Maybe. Kelly, you're muted.
Yeah, I just let Chloe in and Margaret McManus from Beatty and Watson. And I do believe that Margaret did submit something that I didn't get a PDF on.
Okay.
So Chloe's on and Margaret should be coming on.
Hi, Chloe.
Hi.
As usual, I have to recuse myself, but please fill us in on any news.
I think Margaret will probably be the best one to explain everything that happened when she gets up and running.
She's trying to come on now.
Oh, yeah. When you do talk, get a little closer to the mic. I just had a hard time hearing you.
Absolutely.
Hi, it's Margaret McManus. I'm sorry I got kicked off and had to rejoin.
Hi, Margaret.
Hi.
So fill us in, please. This is Mark Galezo, the chair. I'm going to recuse myself from the discussion and decision-making, but I will stay here to be involved as needed.
Kelly, can I share my screen?
Yep, you go right ahead.
Okay. So after the last meeting, we had discussed Beatty and Watson preparing a plan that showed the existing condition and the proposed condition of where we want to put the house. I'm going to zoom in on this area. And we also showed the existing septic system. Now, if you remember, we did speak that when this house burned down, Beatty and Watson came out to the site and had done extensive soil testing to find a different location for the septic system that would have moved it away from the 100-foot setback from the stream. But unfortunately, most of this area has bedrock that is within 2 feet of the surface. So a permit was issued for using the existing dry wells and upgrading the septic tank from a metal septic tank to a concrete septic tank. And that actually was already accomplished. Chloe went to the health department and secured a renewal of that permit, and that was issued in 2019 and is valid until 2021 July, I believe. So the septic system that exists is this concrete tank and these two dry wells. There's also an additional dry well that was approved by the health department in 2005 that picks up just gray water from the washing machine. And that is the configuration that they are planning to use again in the future. As you can see, the driveway has extensive walls that were built in order to get the proper grading. And there's an existing concrete pad that does have to be removed to build the new house, but it is the area where the old house was, and basically is going to be in the same location. The wetland permit would be for building the new house and for connecting from the house to the septic tank, and then to, this dry well is over here, but there really is only, there is a pipe already existing, and I'm sure we can connect somewhere closer to the house and we'll not have to trench all the way to this dry well.
So is there no leaching field for this septic system for the effluent?
There are dry wells, which is, they're not laterals like you typically see, but they're dry wells.
So essentially it's like a cesspool, right?
No, because a cesspool would not have a septic tank. A cesspool would have solids and liquids.
Right, you'd go directly to it.
So the solids are separated out in a septic tank, and then just the effluent goes to the dry wells, which is similar to an older fashion system, but it is approved by the health department. And in the meantime, staff went out and we did a dye test to, the tank actually is filled with water because there was a dye test done by a contractor recently. We hooked up a hose from the well and ran water through the tank for over an hour. So somewhere between probably at the minimum 300 and 600 gallons of water went through the system, and there was no indication of dye on the surface. We're confident that this system is in good working order.
What troubles me, though, is that essentially you're removing some solids, but there's no anaerobic bacteria that's then breaking down the effluent like a leaching field would do, or some other.
No, there's still a bacteria level at the bottom of the tank, so there is still an anaerobic condition.
But if everybody
comes from the tank and into the dry well, you're saying
the effluent goes from the tank into the dry well. The dry well does similar to a fields. The fields just distribute it over a larger area, but it's still the same concept.
What's the diameter and the depth of the dry wells?
I believe, you know what? I have that on another document. You're going to have to give me a minute to find it.
Yeah, I mean, this is Bob. I mean, I think the process is very different. Having a tank like dry well, yeah, maybe you're getting some batch-wise anaerobic breakdown, but it's not the same type of continuous process that a field would be. And that dry well.
Again, this is a system that is approved by the Putnam County Department of Health, and it's their system and it's their approval.
But it's in the wetland buffer, so.
It's an existing system. I'm not asking to put it in. It exists.
Yeah, but the house has to be built to use it, so.
Yeah, I'm thinking, Bob, more of what was used at Manitou recently with the Peat system would make sense here. I'd be comfortable with something like that. but I'm not really comfortable with just basically a dry, you know, we're taking stuff that's coming out of a septic tank and going into a dry well. It might not leak to the surface, but you know, knowing the lack of porosity of you know, the ground in the entire town, but in this area that's definitely steep and rocky, you know, I'm not real warm and fuzzy. You know, we're not only within a wetland buffer, we're roughly 30 to 40 feet from the stream bed itself on the ladder of the two dry wells.
Right.
I don't know how everybody else feels, but I'm just, that to me says that we really need to think about some better alternative.
Right. This is a system
I
that
have
was
to
built in the
disagree with
40s
you
or
because
50s.
the Department of Health has approved this system. They know where the water is. They know what the system does. This is not your determination on what septic system can be used for the
Margaret?
house. Your permit is on the house location.
Margaret,
Yes.
you know, if you're going to be argumentative about it without letting us continue our train of thought and discussions, then we can end this session.
No,
Okay.
no, I don't want to end it, but I do think that you're overstepping what you're allowed to approve.
No, we're not. We're responsible for the buffer, the septic system, right, which is just a dry well, which is 1950s technology, is basically in the buffer. And to use that system, we have to give you a permit to build a house. And my feeling is that in 2021, we can do some upgrades to this system design to improve the support of the wetlands here. Okay.
So rather than doing, I can,
Excuse me, Margaret.
Yes.
Please stop interrupting.
Oh, sorry.
Let the man finish his statement, please.
Okay.
So if we follow your train of thought, whatever was approved in the 20s by the health department would still be acceptable today. So, but that's not okay. All right. We have an obligation as a community to improve the wetland buffer and the streams around us. And that's why we have a conservation board. Okay. If we didn't exist and you didn't have volunteers spending their time doing this, then anybody could do whatever they want as long as, you know, it met 1920 laws. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to mitigate it and to try and make it an improved process so that it's upgraded for the current situation and meets the needs of the other residents, not just the homeowners and what the Board of Health says with their antiquated, in my opinion, rules.
Agreed, Bob. Andy, you said you had some possible addition to the existing system that may make it a little more bearable. Did you have an idea for that?
What I was suggesting, what we permitted recently at Manitou was using a peat system. You know, essentially you're going, it's, if I'm explaining it correctly, it's essentially you're going from a septic tank to, it's almost another septic tank that's filled with layers of specialized peat. And this box acts as a compact, miniaturized leaching field. And the specs that we got on it, and we did approve it, were very impressive. Does it take a little more maintenance? Yes, but not a lot. It's not like a system where you'd have to continually pump it out. You'd have to monitor it, and perhaps, I think we were told every 10 to 15 years, replace the peat in it. And I would suggest something more like that. It's something that I believe is affordable, would give us the protection, would give the community the protections that it needs for the stream. And it's, you know, up-to-date technology.
So rather than a peat system, which, well, I know where Manitou is, and I don't know, you know, the size of the system that it was working for. There is it's like an alternative treatment unit that you would put between the tank and the dry well that actually has, it's like another manhole that has a sock in it, and it cleans it cleans the effluent so that the effluent that goes into the leaching field would be much cleaner than just separating it in the tank. And that is an affordable alternative for a residential application.
But we would need to see the specs on that, but that sounds to me what you're doing is it's removing more of the solids, but you're not necessarily removing all of the contamination, which it's either you're dealing with things that are microns or smaller in size.
Yes.
Or in
Yeah,
solution.
it's very, it is. I can provide you with the specifications on it.
The difference with the peat system is it does provide some, bacterial breakdown that you wouldn't get with a sock filtration, system. So that's the difference.
I'm not sure that there is an area that would hold an underground system that size, but we'd have to look to see what's available on the site.
They were that big, right, Andy? They weren't that big, were they?
No, I mean, I want to say it was something in the order of, it was like 8 by 12. It was small.
How deep was it though? That's the issue.
I believe the depth was in total 5 feet.
It was, we were pretty impressed by it.
Can I suggest if we can find the information from that
We share it. Sure.
application, we'll happily share it. It was a minuscule system, and it's like 50 feet from the river.
And I believe it was either a 3 or 4 bedroom house that's ultimately going to end up there. So in terms of occupation, bedrooms, it's twice what you need.
Did they get approval for that use from the Putnam County Department of Health?
Yep.
Did.
Yep.
I'm just, the miracle of Google, right? I'm just Googling and I'm looking at some plans for these systems online and also the costs. And I think the homeowners, Chloe, I think this is an affordable, more secure option for the location of your planned home, considering, how close it is to the stream. But it would be great if we could get that information in front of Margaret so that she can review it and see if it's a possibility.
I would also have to speak with the Department of Health.
Clearly.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'll jump back in. I think, I guess if we can get the information to you, Margaret, as quickly as we can, that's easy enough to share. We can possibly share, I'm not sure if it's appropriate, but the name of the people that actually did the system. You might be able to get the specifics about it. It seemed to me that it was we were all questioning it heavily when we first saw it. We've never seen one of those before. We Googled it, we read about it, we were educated. It's an interesting new system. At first we were quite skeptical, I have to be honest. Essentially it's an above ground system, if I recall. Andy, would you concur on that? It's almost,
because my biggest worry when I saw it is not only would it work, but also, what happens with water infiltrating the ground when the Hudson, has a flood event, which does happen these days.
Right.
And we were very, very impressed. It met up to muster without needing ridiculous maintenance.
Yeah, it was a modular system too, the one they were using, where there's no science. You buy this thing, they bring it in, they plop it on the ground, done. The water comes out of the house and goes through this medium, which has aerobic and anaerobic digestion going on inside it. The water coming out the bottom is essentially, I don't know if they were saying it was potable, quite honestly, but it was like right back into the river, done. No questions. Wasn't DEC involved in that one too?
Yep.
So yep. It was a cool system, and it didn't seem like it was expensive. I knock on wood. I'm not making any statements there.
In the meantime, if you want to take a look, Chloe, if you go to the Lake George Association, and they are rabid about their systems now because everybody's got it's all lake houses right on the edge of Lake George. they actually have a little page on this. Right on their website. If you just want to look at it in the meantime, just to get kind of up to speed on this technology and how it's used.
Okay,
It
great.
is pretty impressive.
And when we get the information, Kelly, maybe we could also provide the date that the meetings occurred, and they can go back and watch the videos of the other prior applicant when we talked about the PEAT system. Might
Absolutely.
just get some information that way as well. Get some use out of our videos.
I just dropped something in the chat. It was the peat filtration document from the University of Minnesota that someone had passed around. Was it Mark? I think it was something you had sent out, Mark, back in October, and I just put it in the chat for everyone.
Great. Thanks, Kelly.
Oh, that was Crystal.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm sorry, Crystal, I apologize. I only have 5 people showing on my screen. I'm not sure how to change it. I don't know who's here.
Thanks for making me look smart.
All right. I'm not sure where we go from here, guys. Chloe, I wish we could have given you something definitive and hopefully we're moving in a positive direction.
Well, before we sign off, can we agree that the house location is the best location for the house?
Yeah, let's talk about the house and see if there's anything else that we can maybe kind of check.
Let me
off,
get
right?
that back up on my screen. So this is where the house was. There's about half of the house concrete pad is still there. But this is basically the same location that the house was since 1950. Moving farther up the hill would move the house out of the buffer area, but it would create a lot more disturbance because you would have to disturb more of this steeper slope area to bring the driveway up, and you'd have to flatten out an area that, you know, where this is already a flattened area. So it seems to me that this is the most logical place to put the house that has the least amount of disturbance. The driveway and the bridge already exist. The retaining walls already exist to hold up the driveway.
Is there an increase in total area of the house? Is that what the golden box is showing?
No, that's deck. So that is deck area. So that just has posts.
But it's bigger, the deck area is bigger than the original footprint, or is it the same? I think
Yeah,
that was the
the
question.
deck is the elevated deck.
No,
I
no.
don't know if there was I don't know if there was an
Right, but
existing.
what we're asking is the deck going beyond the footprint of the original house?
Chloe, I believe it is, yes.
Okay. So what's the board's thought on the deck itself? Meaning the deck, which would be south, which is within the wetland buffer versus other parts of the deck.
What's the drainage plan off the roof? And I mean, how are you moving the water from the house site?
Well, I would assume that we would collect the roof and leader drains and discharge it to
Just down the hill.
just down the hill with a riprap outlet, so it would slow it down.
Mhm. And I can't tell from this, is the deck is elevated, like, I mean, I see that you've got like stairs going down two sides.
I
Front area?
I think I can, I have to, I think, not share this, and then I can share I think I have the floor plans. Let me just see if I can find the floor plans.
I have a copy of it again. I
An
can't
elevation view of the
share it,
house?
but we have an elevation view
Yeah,
that kind of shows it. That should have been in everyone's packet from previous submittal, showing how elevated the deck will be from the ground for the front and the side. If that shows it a little bit clearer. I know I'm holding up a piece of paper.
There you go.
right. So basically the deck is elevated almost a story above the ground.
I see. Okay.
I think the water management off the roof and the deck will be important to point out, like how you're going to be managing that, what kind of systems you may be putting in place to try and direct that water flow so it doesn't create, significant damage. I mean, that area was pretty cleared and very rocky, but there still could be a lot of eventual wash down into the stream.
We'll show the collection of the leader drains to a discharge point and a riprap outlet. I'm not sure how much you can contain runoff from the deck, but that usually goes between the slats and maybe, I mean, I'll talk to Chloe, but if they put stone underneath the deck, that would, mitigate runoff. It's the best maintenance. Are there any other comments on the house location?
I mean, I think are we all okay with using the original site? I think it's, we don't like putting anything within a buffer, but I think I do agree that it's less disturbance to use the original footprint. We all agree on that?
I agree on that.
Yeah.
Seems that way.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, because I think that's important.
Then you're dealing with I mean, this way you're not dealing with a whole new driveway and all that hardscaping.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think we might want to look at the runoff on the driveway as well, just how that flows, just, obviously just so it's going in a controlled way. I don't remember really what was on the sides of it, but might want to mitigate some of that as well so that it's just not creating gullies along the sides of, driveways and things like that. But you can see that when you get in the field.
All right. Has everybody sort of weighed in? Do we feel, again, I'm recusing myself, so I'm not trying to push any decisions in any direction, but I just wanted to keep the meeting moving.
Margaret, do you have a clear line forward in terms of what we need?
Yes, and Kelly, you're going to send me, you have some of the documentation on the peat system.
Yes, I do. I will get that to you tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think just to reiterate from the board's perspective, I think we just need a completed site plan with, silt fencing and all, obviously the basics for any sort of construction project, especially one occurring within the buffer. So all of those details need to be included on the plan.
And erosion and sediment control plan that in.
Any sort of environmental protections that you want to include.
And your drainage, just if you can show the drainage.
Yep.
I mean, I think what we've said at other meetings, when we've got projects that are either necessary or maybe not really necessary for a property owner that's working in the buffer. And in this case, regardless of what, was grandfathered by from 1950, if you're working in the buffer, we're going to be expecting, some mitigations and new technology to be used to try and, offset the damage or the potential risk. And I think that's just a consistent message that this board has sent. I'd ask anybody else to, support that or disagree, whatever, but I think we've said that pretty clearly. So, Margaret, I just asked that maybe you look back at that other meeting and see, you'll see a consistent response there. So.
I know we're gonna disagree on that, but this is your approval, and I will look into whether or not EFP system is approvable at this location by the health department.
Great.
All right. Thanks, guys. Margaret, I just wanted to point out, it's something that's sort of an ongoing problem we've had with the health department, in that they will approve things which then come to us, which are utterly not approvable. So that is why we are being a little bit obstinate here. It just because the health department approved it does not mean it is acceptable. So I think that that's something you should keep in your head going forward.
Just to build off of those points too, the town does have illicit discharge ordinances that we administer, and ultimately these types of protections are put in place to help the homeowner in the future. We don't want to put somebody in a situation where, the fines or consequences could be outweigh just taking a harder look at an improvement at the time of. So I think that's where this is all coming from, sentiment wise, from the board.
All right. I think, are you all right? Are you good, Margaret?
Yep, we're good.
All right. Thanks, guys. Let's move on to the next one.
Thank you.
Shapiro, I believe.
So Juhi was on, but then I did send you the email where it stated that she was didn't have anything. They were holding off on the site visit
Right.
because they were going to relocate the screened-in porch. So she has disappeared. So the only person on is Roberto.
Okay, very good. Roberto's, good evening. And I believe, Max, you're in on this too, correct?
Yep, I'm here.
Roberto's coming in now.
Okay. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Beautiful. So basically, Max and I just wanted to announce that we completed the 2020 Natural Resources Inventory and presented it to the town board on Thursday. And the inventory, as well as all of the maps, are available via our climatesmartphilipstown.org website. And also we're going to put it up on the Philipstown website underneath the town code and plans section, since the 2007 Natural Resource Open Space Protection Plan is there as well. And then in addition to that, we'll put out some press releases to the local newspapers just to let them know that, the town is officially releasing this report. And that essentially leaves the next steps of the online interactive tool that we talked about back in October. Before bringing that up, I just want to pass it off to Max if there's anything you want to say.
No, I think you covered it. I think Roberto put in a ton of work on this. He was the main author on all the narrative sections, and really did a great job coordinating between all the local NGOs and government offices to get input on the report. So I know it was kind of like a long drawn out process, but I think it came together and it's a pretty valuable document for the town. So thanks a lot.
Of course, yeah, it's really been a pleasure. It's been intense, but now listening to different property owners talking about issues, I end up thinking about so many different resources that could be impacted by these decisions, and I'm incredibly grateful that we have a conservation board to protect a lot of life forms and ecosystems that would be overlooked otherwise. And since Max mentioned, we received a lot of input from the Hudson Highlands Land Trust and also the New York State DEC Hudson River Estuary Program. And they both provided really helpful comments on maps and the narrative sections as well for the report. And also kind of throughout the process, I would check in with both of them at different points, and they had resources they could give to us, but also just recommendations on different guides to use. So when the town eventually has to update this NRI, whoever is around at that point, I think the recommendation is to do it every 10 years. So in 2030, if the land trust and the DEC estuary program are still in existence, which I assume they will be, they're definitely a good resource to bank on.
Thank you, Roberto.
You're welcome.
I know. I just wanted to say, I think I can speak for all of us that we're grateful for all your hard work. You'll be missed. I understand that you are moving forward, and I want to wish you good luck in all your future endeavors.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks for your work on this. I worked on the last one. I know how much.
It's a lot.
I know how much work goes into it.
I have to say, I've been spending, I'm going to whip this out. I've days now trying to read this report, and I'm not even done. And it's really, I'm learning a lot. So thank you. Thank you and Max and everyone for doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. We're really thrilled, I think, to have been able to put it together.
It's an incredible piece of work. The town is in your debt.
Well, happy to pay it forward, or however it works. Yeah.
What's your next chapter? Where are you going?
So my fiance and I are most likely looking to move up to Vermont, New Hampshire, or Maine. Most likely Maine, because my brother lives up there near Portland. And we're hoping to find a property that we can afford that has some land and is hopefully near, protected forest or wilderness and so on and so forth.
Not within a wetlands buffer, though.
To say the least. No, this will also make purchasing a property so much easier because now I know what to look out for. It's a good education. It really speaks to how crucial education is as well, to just spare you guys this grief that constantly comes up, because so many folks just don't understand why these protections are in place and what to look out for before they purchase a property, before they get into architectural plans and so forth.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's about communication and education. But good luck.
Thank you.
Great.
So the last item was to just quickly discuss next steps for developing the online version of the maps, which when we talked about it in October is really neat. It's available through Esri, ArcGIS, their online tool. And it allows you to select any of the layers that we have in the inventory and, put them on top of each other. Included are tax parcels, so a really useful tool as you're looking at what's happening on a specific property, especially maybe for this education sense where during a meeting you could even show a property owner, this is why we're doing this. These are the different resources that could be impacted. And then I think also the idea is to make it available to the public, and the Climate Smart Task Force will definitely push, I think, to get the information out there as it works more on the conservation or adaptation part of the campaign, as the DEC calls it. So I think last we left off, we were focusing on the report and the maps, the PDF maps. And once we finished all that, we would tackle this. I think essentially what Max told me is it'll take uploading some more layers. but then it can essentially be kind of anyone who's interested helping out to possibly make some choices about different colors for layers and, you know, ways to make it as presentable as possible. Saying that, I want to pass it off to Max, since you know a lot more about this than I do in terms of maybe what the next steps should be.
Yeah, I think you summarized it really well. But basically, yeah, I have a few more items just to include so that the data set's complete online, and then we'll be able to kind of do like maybe a soft release to like this group, so they have like a URL that they can go and log in, and it'll be, you know, something similar to the natural resource mapper that DEC has available now, but with maybe a few, you know, a little bit more of a added detail, and what information's available to that's Philipstown specific. So yeah, any suggestions on just user clarity would probably be the best next step. Just so kind of ease of access, what should be displayed initially when you open the website up, things like that, are going to be really helpful. And those are some of the things that I think having a few more people involved, because it's somewhat subjective, may help give us a better end product. That being said, a lot of this stuff could change. That's the, I guess, beauty of using these online tools, is so it could always be something that's added or improved upon as more information or new information comes out. So it'll probably be kind of a beta form in the beginning. And then eventually, as people get to use it and understand it, more something that's a permanent fixture, I think, when people are doing development review in the town.
Yeah, awesome. So maybe what would be helpful, is everyone familiar with the Hudson Valley Natural Resource Mapper from the DEC?
I've seen it.
Quite honestly, no, but
If so, maybe a way to say it is, if you haven't taken a look at it, you can Google or search Hudson Valley Natural Resource Mapper, New York State DEC. I found it incredibly helpful as a complementary tool to writing the sections of the NRI, in part because they kind of clean up some of the metadata for the files that go into the maps and give really nice summaries of each of the data layers. And also when you click on a polygon or a point on some of the maps, it'll bring up a window with further information and links to additional resources. It's really, really well designed. Most likely it's well beyond what we can put together in the short run, but it may kind of give us an idea of what to shoot for. And some of the layers that they have duplicate with our own maps, even though we've gone further and included other layers as well. So it may give ideas of, you know, different colors to use and so on and so forth.
excellent. I just Googled it. We're going. All right. Well, thank you, Roberto, very, very much. Really, just like so much information, I'm utterly overwhelmed.
I'm sorry.
So I got to start reading that thing. You held that thing up. It's like the Encyclopedia Britannica.
It's a bit long. Yeah.
I guess it would be in all of our best interest to start perusing it.
Yeah, and actually, on our Climate Smart website, it's the first thing you'll see if you go to climatesmartphilipstown.org, and there's a link to another page that has more info on it. But I tried to emphasize, just start with the thing that you want to nerd out about the most, and then you can dive into other sections, because it does have so much information, and it's kind of overwhelming in some ways because it's so rich. So I've definitely encouraged folks to just, look at the table of contents, and it's the type of report where you can start at whatever chapter and still get a lot out of it.
Yeah. With any other resource like that, it's just, you really have to start playing with it and just see what's there.
Right.
The more you play with it, the better you get at it. So, all right. Well, thank you, Roberto, very much. And
you're welcome.
Does anybody have any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
for all the work.
Thank you,
Good luck in Vermont or Maine.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm still going to be around at least till the summer. I think that's our plan. So no, I'm also very happy to pitch in the effort as we work on the online map. And if you have any questions, after looking through the report, definitely let me know.
So you work from a distance then?
Oh, well, after moving, I have no idea. But
Yeah,
no,
it was a joke. It was a joke.
my term is coming to its close, but not kicking and screaming, unlike others.
No problem.
So, yeah, we'll see. Now you got it. There you go.
What did he mean? I don't know what you were talking about, Roberto.
Yeah, I think there's a video of someone, having a temper tantrum on the floor of a nursery as his vice president is pulling him out.
Oh my God, that's hysterical. Okay, before we all get in trouble, thank you very much and good evening. I think, guys, we're done with our meeting unless somebody else has something. New business, stormwater, Max?
The only stormwater update is that we're going to be starting to draft our annual report that we'll be due in March. So Mike sent Carl and I out an email today or yesterday, coordinating a date to kind of get together and discuss next steps on that. So I know that Mike wanted the NRI to be highlighted in that annual report too. So it's something we're going to look at and see what sections can get incorporated.
Yeah, that'll be an excellent plus for us. Especially if we get a DEC audit and so forth. I think between that and the comprehensive plan changes, I think our report's going to look pretty good this year.
Great.
Thanks for your work, Roberto and Max. It's going to be very helpful for us going forward because, as we see here, it seems like every month we're having to deal with these properties that are just not fitting with our really overall plan. And that's because there's not a lot of properties left to build on. And so these properties that somebody would pass on a while ago are now ending up in front of us. And these maps as well will kind of help maybe hopefully as people get more educated and the building inspector as well, we can kind of coordinate. And as was said earlier, we really need to try to see if we can start to learn how to nip these in the bud, so that people get told right away coming in. I mean, the planning board, I remember when I was chair, we have like administrative meetings with applicants when they walk in the door. And it's really a major plus because you get to go over things with them there and you go back and forth a little before they even come before the board, So it was really very beneficial, and maybe we can get something like that in a way created for conservation.
That makes a lot of sense, Mike.
Yeah.
But Mike, if engineering groups like, the last several that we've got several of these properties that, put, basically an antiquated system back in the buffer and said that it was grandfathered as a repair. We've seen this several times. If these companies are going to continue to do that and then use the, Putnam County Health Department's approval as, kind of a shield to say, well, we can build in the wetland buffer. You got to approve it. I mean, it doesn't make this board feel good. I mean, it doesn't make me feel good to have to argue with an engineer that these people hired about what is our responsibility, which is to protect the wetland buffer and put better technology in there. So it's kind of at odds. I think the town board could really maybe look at this and try and see if there's some way that we could have some outreach with, the health department to at least discuss this and maybe get the buffers to match up, so they're not saying 50 foot and we have 100 foot and
right.
We have some letter of agreement that, they don't approve something until, hey, where's your wetland permit? Oh, okay, well.
Yeah, that's
I think we're comfortable with
that's
it.
That's good. It's just, yeah, they just in my experiences with them so far, and I've actually had this discussion with Rich Shea about putting this on the agenda for them. I'm somewhat worried about them because my experiences with them in the field have not been very positive overall. I don't understand why they don't look at the big picture like us, but they don't. And we could name some applicants. I'm sure we'll all be familiar with what we're talking about there, but they're they're not, Carmel itself, the town, in my opinion, having to gone through different trainings and everything else, is not very environmentally conscious, I would say. Like our town is definitely not, in my opinion. So that does impact them, I think, to some degree. But
Unfortunate.
yeah, but we have the two standards, and I think you guys said it correctly tonight by saying that, it isn't just enough to just walk in here and tell us that the Board of Health said it's okay. As you pointed out, Bob, their standards are less than ours. So, that's the kind of discussions I'd like to have. But in the end of the day, if they're not going to change, then at least we're going to make it convey to them that, hey, it isn't just them. You've got to come in also and satisfy us, because we're not doing this to be tough to you, to break your stones, right? We're doing it because this is about a science. You're affecting our waterland, our waterways, our wetlands. These buffers are very important. In some ways, 100 feet even isn't the greatest in some circumstances, but we try to come up with at least something reasonable. But and our town is much different, in my opinion, also than Carmel. So I think, we have to be more fanatical in some ways about the environment, because of over half the town is steep slopes and so forth. If we're not diligent, and have a very good conservation board watching these things like you're doing, then I think things could go very bad for us in a short period of time.
Thank you, Mike. Words well said. All right, guys, onward and upward.
So we need to have a motion, I guess.
Would you like to do that, my dear?
Yes, I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Can I
I
have
will
a second?
second it.
All in favor?
I.
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Stay
Bye.
well.
Good night. So long.
Thank you.